For my senior project, I followed around my orthopedist, Dr. Richard Ramus. I chose him because he's pretty much a person I've been seeing just about every couple months for the past year, and he performed one of my operations on my shoulder, and then referred me to a different doctor. But he's a good friend of my parents, so I thought that if I've been there a few times in the hospital and gotten to see what he does kind of under the knife, that it'd be nice to see what it's like from the other side. I spent 4 days, 2 of which were seeing office patients, and those were incredibly boring. With the exception of I got to see a couple of people that I knew. One of my friends, actually, who's in college now, was rolling on those Heeley shoes, and he fractured his tibia and his fibia. I think I got this in the right order. And his when it first happened, his just like foot and ankle just looked kind of like jello.
What was he rolling on?
They've got these shoes.
No, I know that, but like what kind of surface? He
just
fell?
like concrete or something, and like he went over. He was going too fast, and he went over a thing, and his foot just bent, and it just fell over it. Looking at the X-rays, you could see where like the bones were just absolutely snapped in half. So that was kind of interesting to see, and I got to see a lot of X-rays with like screws and plates and different things, and I can't count the number of people that he was saying with like replaced hips and everything. That you're probably going to set off the metal detectors at the airport, so they had to kind of have one of those little tags or something that say they've got metal implants. So that's kind of fun to watch. But definitely the most interesting days were the surgery days. I got to watch 3 knee replacements, 2 orthoscopic surgery repairs, 1 invasive rotator cuff repair, and then when he had to run back to the office one day, I stayed in for part of an open heart surgery and 1 knee scope. I was surprised from watching watching my dad do heart surgery compared to the orthopedic surgery, that the just amount of like intricacy, I guess if that's a word, how much it varied, because of it seemed almost that he was just using almost blunt instruments compared to like, the little minute details that the heart surgeons went through, and that they would like go in and just make the incision in the knee and pretty much just cut away part of the tendon that's right above your knee, and then just basically fold over the patella, and they'll just like go and they'll snip it just like with like almost just like a strong pair of scissors, almost it looked like, and just like kind of shave away stuff, and then use saws and like having things going everywhere. But the most exciting of everything is he was replacing this lady's knee, and she must have had some sort of fluid build up in her knee that he didn't see. It was deep in her bone, and so he's like sawing. They have like for stability, they insert a metal rod down like down into like the shin, and they end up taking it out later. But he's sawing the hole down into it, and all of this fluid just flies everywhere, and it's covering me, it's covering him, and he just looks at me with his like soaked glasses and nobody can see out of it, and he's just like, well, if we weren't wearing these, now you could have AIDS. I was like, oh, that's good to know. So that was probably the most exciting aspect of everything. The knee replacements were, because you could really see everything, and I was surprised that the amount of metal that they insert for the knee replacements is quite considerable, and that it's pretty much the entire knee is metal from there on out, and they shave away a considerable amount of the bone. The orthoscopic surgeries weren't as interesting because of, you just watch it on the computer screen, and I always sat there wondering to myself, it looked so difficult to kind of get the hang of it. It looked like you were just almost playing like with the robot's arms or something, and you're trying to like revolve the computer or the camera around on the screen and everything. So that looked rather tricky, but it was nice to see that somebody else, like he was showing me, well, this is something similar to what you had done, and I got to see somebody else like their clavicle get shaved down, and some anchors get put in for the rotator cuff repair, which was nice to see. Just to kind of get an idea of what I had done to myself. So overall, I thought it was a really good experience. I'm considering medicine, and it made me realize how much more I liked orthopedics, as opposed to cardiovascular surgery and some other types of doctors that are just too minute in detail and almost doing the same thing on a day-to-day basis. So I don't know, it almost pushed me away a little bit just from the whole medical profession as a whole. But I knew that if I do decide to go into medicine, that orthopedics is probably what I will venture into.
What parts of it kind of started to push you even away from?
The parts that just how how similar all the cases were. It just seemed so droll, and that are just boring, and that I felt like one patient would come in and it would just be like, well, do you have does this hurt? And they kind of take their leg and push it back and forth, and they'd be like, yeah, well, you probably got some arthritis in there. The only thing we can do it now is a full hip replacement, although they're working on other methods, but they probably won't be available for another 30 years. So they were like, okay, so when can we do the knee replacement? He's like, well, 2 to 3 weeks, and can you schedule me in? Go talk to my scheduler. That was it. And after hearing that about, 20 times a morning for 2 days, I was just kind of like, this is just doing this every other day for the rest of my life would drive me insane. So I don't know, that's probably the biggest part of it that pushed away, but surgery definitely made up for it, because that was a lot more interesting, and all those cases were kind of unique.
So maybe ER, like an ER doctor would be more...
something more, or maybe along the lines of like a trauma surgeon or something of that sort, but those are kind of few and far between, and there's only 1 or 2 major trauma centers in the city, so it's much more difficult to get that job, so I don't know.
Okay.